Okay, hello, College Park Scholars, Science and Global Change. We'll be doing our presentation today on climate change and marine heat waves. And today we're joined by
Juliana Thompson-Williams.
Glory Abatai.
Sara Eley.
and Mamadou Niamba. Again, we're in the second semester class of College Park Scholars, SBSG 101, and this is spring 2025. So to give you our table of context, we're going to start with an introduction, describe a phenomenon, some of its causes, its impacts, and then we'll end off with a few of the changes that have happened and will happen if the issue isn't resolved. So let's first start beginning with our statement. Marine heat waves has been a common thing in the past, but starting in around the 1970s, they become an issue. Their occurrence has been progressively increasing, coinciding with reverse global warming. And if you look at the charts, you can see a bit of these trends.
So, what is the phenomenon? Marine heat waves are periods of abnormally high sea surface temperatures in a particular area of the ocean, lasting for days, weeks, or even months. They're like heat waves on land, but happen underwater, and they can stretch across hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. They impact marine ecosystems and coastal communities and are becoming more frequent and intense due to climate change. The causes. So I have three causes that I'll be explaining now. First one is changes in ocean currents. The changes in ocean currents can bring warmer water to areas that are not typically warm. The second one is atmospheric patterns. Strong, persistent atmospheric high-pressure systems can lead to reduced wind speeds, which in turn prevent the mixing of cooler water from below with the warmer water, allowing temperatures to rise. The third and last cause I'll be explaining is the overall effect of climate change and El Nino. The El Nino Southern Oscillation is a global weather phenomenon that is more prominent when climate change is at its peak, and it can also impact marine heat waves. In El Nino years, wind speeds slow or disappear, driving up sea temperatures.
Now we will be talking about the impact on wildlife. When it comes to heat stress, it can ruin marine habitats, including coral reefs and kelp forests. This causes wildlife like fish, whales, and sea turtles to migrate to cooler areas of the ocean where they mainly migrate for the purpose of hunting and reproduction. And because they're changing their purpose of moving, that changes their migration behavior and it causes an effect on the food chain. And one of the wildlife that migrates and moves around are is actually algae. And that can result in coral bleaching because algae lives on corals and that's what gives them color. And kelp forests and coral, they can't leave like the other animals can, so they are left, but yeah, they are left in the environment but cannot sustain the temperatures, so there is a loss of kelp forests and there's bleaching, and there's also an increase in algae blooms because of the increase in temperature and the oversaturation of nutrients in the surface water. And now we'll talk about the impacts on humans. Due to the different migration patterns and the different effects on the food chain, there's a smaller fish population, which leads to less species abundance and richness. So there's less fish to catch, and it'll cause problems for fishing companies. And essentially, there's less food to eat, especially if the population has fish as a staple. There's also a lack of tourism. People go to places for nice, clear blue water, but they're seeing the water is just essentially green because of the algae blooms and it looks kind of gross. And people also go to see the colorful variety of fish, but since they are no longer there to eat them or look at them, there's now a lack of revenue because less people will travel to see those kind of things. And also, the ocean helps reduce our CO2 emissions. But if we keep hurting the ocean as is, then our CO2 emissions will continue to skyrocket. There's also a lack of resources for antibiotics because marine wildlife and ecosystems have heavily contributed to modern medicine, and the destruction of such could harm access to the medication we have today.
Now we're going to talk about what changes have happened. The ocean has absorbed over 90% of the excess heat caused by global warming, which has led to steadily rising temperatures across many regions. Marine heat waves once were really rare, but are now more frequent, last longer, and are often more intense. And they can raise ocean temperatures by several degrees Celsius, placing serious stress on marine life. Additionally, the warming of oceans contribute to sea level rise through thermal expansion. Combined with stronger hurricanes fueled by warm water, this leads to increased coastal flooding and long-term damage to coastal communities. What changes are going to happen in the future if climate change continues? If global warming continues. Marine heat waves are projected to become much more frequent, potentially 50 times more common by the end of the century under high emission scenarios. Coral reefs, kelp forests, and other essential marine systems may not be able to recover from repeated stress, leading to loss of biodiversity and disruption of global fisheries. Another concern is ocean deoxygenation. As water warms, it holds less oxygen, which makes survival more difficult for many marine species. When combined with ocean acidification caused by increased CO2 absorption, it creates hostile conditions for organisms like shellfish and plankton. Sea level rise is also expected to accelerate. Estimates suggest levels could rise up to 1 meter by 2100 if emissions are not reduced. This could have major impacts on coastal populations, infrastructure, and ecosystems. Finally, with warmer oceans, we can expect more powerful storms and greater risk of damage to coastal areas, especially in regions already vulnerable to flooding and erosion.
And that's going to be the end of our slides. Thank you all so much for listening. These are our sources. And if you have any questions or want to follow us, you can email any one of us. Thank you.